Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and with me, as always, is my brother and co-host.
Bashar.
Today, we will be talking about everything the Cricket World Cup 2023. Great start, by the way.
Wow, you took us 20 years back.
The great start of the World Cup podcast. No, we're going to be talking about everything 2023 World Cup India edition on this podcast. We're going to be breaking down venues. We're going to be breaking down team combinations, everything that has to do with the World Cup, prize money, all of that. But before that, we just want to take a word from our sponsors, who are you. Yes, you are the ones who are sponsoring our podcast. So if you want to further sponsor us and make sure that this lights in this place stay up, do check out our Patreon account. It's linked in the bio below. In all formats that you're watching or listening to, there are special features there, BTS videos there, special votes that you could do on topics that we talk about. There's also, live Zoom calls that we're organizing. The first one is going to happen the end of this month. So if you still want to, sign up for the Patreon, you can always do that. Secondly, the free trials are ending this month as well. That's one thing that we've decided to stop doing. It's not really helping much. People who want to stay, stay. People who don't want to come, don't come at all. So the free trial is ending at the end of this month as well. So if that's something you are looking into grabbing, you can always do that. And I'm going to throw it to my brother and co-host today, who is going to be filling us in on the agenda of everything that we have to talk about. It's a loaded agenda. I did read through the notes, which you also can do. So many Patreon perks, man. Our fans and our supporters can also read through every single note that we make for every single podcast moving forward, because we post them on our Patreon. So I think that's the biggest value that we add to people who want to actually get behind us and you want to see what we're thinking about. All the notes are written by yours truly. That is not me. I'm not pointing at myself. I'm pointing at Bashar. So I'm going to give it to him. Bashar, take it away. What is on the agenda today? What are we talking about in depth, in length? And I'm going to start rambling.
Man, this is going to be an action-packed agenda. We have lots to discuss, lots to cover. This is the 2023 edition of the ODI World Cup preview. So sit back, grab your popcorn or wherever you are, because this is going to be a deep dive into everything related to the World Cup. So we'll talk about the teams, what the format is, how many matches, what the venues are.
Cash prize.
Cash prize is very important. The dough, that's what keeps things going. We'll then go towards a deep dive into every single team, all 10 teams that are part of this World Cup. And this will be in the order of how the ICC rankings are. So we'll try to spend roughly 5 minutes, 6 minutes each on each team discussing their squad, some injuries that they've had, the strengths, their weaknesses, players to watch out for. And then in the end, we'll talk about our predictions of the World Cup. So who our top run scorers might be, finalists, top 4 teams, highest wicket takers, tournament MVP. So if you want to skip through any parts, his video is chaptered. So if you think some parts are more important for you, feel free to skip through. If not, sit back, enjoy, because this is going to be a historic episode. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get straight into the World Cup. So ODI World Cup happens every 4 years. This is the big World Cup. This is, if you win this, you basically won everything. Back when you used to be kids, we used to play these one-tip matches in the terrace, and we would say, whoever wins this match wins all the matches. So if you win this tournament, you're the real deal. This is the real World Cup. Real teams participating, all the best players.
Are you saying the T20 World Cup is not the real World Cup? You're starting with controversy already, and I don't like that at all.
I mean, it is, but like,
I don't like your tone.
The thing with the ODI World Cup is, and typically with how cricket is, like the longer the format gets, only the better team comes up on top. The less upsets you'll see in ODI cricket, because just the game is longer, you have a better chance to come back into the match. Same thing with test matches. T20s is like, Afghanistan can beat Pakistan. Bangladesh can upset India. So those things can happen very often because it's a short game. Upsets are highly likely. But with the ODI format, only the best of the best end up winning.
Yeah, the T20 format also doesn't allow you to recover a lot. If you're 40 for 3 in the first 10, you're kind of pretty much done for. You might struggle to get 100, 110, and that's not enough score to, challenge any team. One example really comes to mind is the Asia Cup match in 2016 or 2018 against India, where Pakistan bowled out for 82, and Amir bowled a gem of a spell in that game for no avail because there was not enough runs. There weren't enough overs. Pakistan couldn't finish on top. But conversely, in ODIs, you'll find many a times India recently in the Asia Cup, they were 60 for 3, 60 for 4, 64 for something around that mark.
64.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. And they managed to score 268 or 266 at the end of that inning. So, ODI, we've said it before, and many people have said it online, different podcasts. I feel like the Great Cricketer also mentioned this recently. It's the complete package. It's 50 overs. It's enough overs that, a team can collapse and come back, and, everybody can be tested. And I just love it. I'm very excited for this World Cup. Like we've said before, this seems like a very wide open World Cup. Could be anybody's game and in anybody's cup. No, you cannot. If whoever is claiming to pinpoint favorites is lying to themselves. You can maybe predict the top 4, maybe. And even then, it's like up in the air.
I think you're jumping the gun by going to the top 4. Let's
Sure.
get into the tournament first.
Let's go.
So 10 teams. This is being hosted by India. So the host team qualifies automatically. The other 7 teams qualified based on the points table for the ICC Cricket World Cup Super League. So the top 7 teams were qualified. And then Sri Lanka and Netherlands had to go play the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifiers. And so Sri Lanka was unbeaten in that tournament. They qualified. And Netherlands had their points tied with Zimbabwe and Scotland. And they edged on top because of their net run rate.
Crazy.
So crazy. I mean, that was a crazy tournament. West Indies wasn't able to qualify.
First time ever, 2-time champions.
Huge news. I mean, we're not talking enough about West Indies not playing this tournament because I always feel like they add a different flavor to the tournament. They're a mercurial team. You never know which West Indies could show up on the day.
Their upset in the 2019 World Cup was single-handedly the reason that Pakistan got knocked out.
Absolutely.
Pakistan was superior in that tournament. Great team, great captain. Everybody was young. Everybody was gunning for the title, but they just couldn't make it because of that one stupid game where they got knocked out for 105. I actually rewatched that game to give myself torture, and it wasn't fun.
I don't know why you did that to yourself. I would never do that. It's just like
I also rewatched the 2011 semifinal against India.
Just stop.
I just did that. I have to do that for this podcast. That's what I do for you guys. But that's another video altogether.
And then if you go into the format of this World Cup, it's the same as the last World Cup. 10 teams, so everybody faces each other once. It's a round robin. And I feel like this is the best format of the World Cup. I mean, we say it is the World Cup, but technically it's just 10 teams participating. Nothing compared to the FIFA World Cup. But I think when we have had more teams, teams get split into groups, and it just doesn't. It's not good. Like I don't want a World Cup where, like 2015, Pakistan never faced New Zealand.
Yeah,
Right.
or like a 2003 or 2007 situation where in 2003, this will blow your mind. I just checked this. The 4 semifinalists in that tournament were Australia,
India,
India,
Kenya,
and I believe it was
Sri Lanka.
maybe. I'm forgetting the 4th one now, but Kenya was one of the semifinalists in that World Cup only because of points and the way that the World Cup was scheduled and sort of the way that the things transpired. So you don't want that situation. You don't want a situation in 2007 where both India and Pakistan were knocked out.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, Pakistan lost to Ireland. India lost to Bangladesh, 2 upsets, and then 2 of the main teams out in the first round. Horrible tournament. I mean, I'm not just saying that because India, Pakistan didn't make it, but it's just from a broadcasting point of view also, like India and Pakistan are where most of the broadcasting comes from. And it was a huge loss to the ICC by them to not qualifying. It was the riots in India because the Indian team couldn't make it past the first round. It was a great team. You had Dravid, Sachin, Sehwag, Dhoni, but not being able to make it past the first round was horrible. Pakistan, just probably their worst World Cup campaign ever because you lose to Ireland and then your coach dies the same night.
And one of your star players is retiring with an ungraceful exit in Zimam ul Haq. So yeah, like tough one for Pakistan, that one, 2007 one. I mean, but this is not a Pakistan World Cup experience. We are going to do that video. I think we are going to, there's a video coming down the line, an episode of the podcast where we break down every single World Cup performance for Pakistan, starting from 1975 all the way to 2019. So that's the one where we're going to go in depth about every single World Cup performance that has gone through. And I'm very excited about that episode. But coming back to the 2023 World Cup setup, you did say that there are going to be 10 teams, much like the 2019 World Cup, and West Indies is not going to be one of them. So, Netherlands, I feel like people are taking them a lot easier than they should be. I mean, if you remember the 2022 World Cup, they were the ones who beat South Africa, which made Pakistan sort of come through the lines and eventually play the final. So, Netherlands on their day, uh, a good team to look at. The one thing that I'm very eager to talk about a little bit is the prize money, which is 4 million USD for the match winner or the World Cup winner. Runners up gets 2 million USD. And then if I can just, yeah, 2 million for the runners up and then $40,000 USD for each win in the group stage. There's also one stage that I think it's 500,000 or a million each.
I think it's 100,000 where if you make it to the semis.
100, I feel like it's a bit more.
Willing to double check, but
We'll double check that.
yeah.
But or people can do that on their own as well. But there's this prize money for making up into the top 4 as well, and then 40,000 each for winning a game in the group stage, which is good money. But just to contrast that a little bit, I was just out of curiosity, I wanted to check the 2022 FIFA World Cup winnings and how much the team was getting, the winning team. Do you know how much it was?
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Was it 10 million?
Higher.
20?
Higher.
50 million?
Lower.
40 million?
Yeah. I think it was $42 million for the winning team, and runners up was around half of that. Just to goes to show how much money is in the FIFA World Cups, how many more teams play that World Cup. Obviously, that feels more.
How much more viewership they have, more sponsors, more eyeballs.
Yeah, and we could talk about why, but one like immediate reason that comes to it is that just more European countries play that game, and Europe has a lot of money.
Also, I think FIFA is just like football is soccer is a really easy game to understand. It's just a ball. There's 2 goalposts. There's 11 players on each field, and you got to kick the ball enough times and make sure you hit it in the net. And that's easy.
Ease of the game is what you're saying is the popularity of that sport in Europe.
Absolutely,
and around the world.
Cricket just I think one of the reasons why it hasn't picked up in the North American audience is because of how difficult it is to understand the sport. I mean, I feel like baseball is as hard as cricket in terms of understanding the rules. I've been in Canada for the past 11 years. I still don't know what the rules of baseball are.
But be honestly, how hard have you tried to understand baseball though?
Not really. Not much.
Exactly. And like, I feel like if you gave it like an hour a day for like a week, you'd be able to understand baseball. Baseball is far more easier to understand than cricket is. Once we were playing cricket in one of the fields in Toronto, and it was in between a park. You could hear people walking by with their dogs and their babies, and it was a morning game as well, so it was like early. And I could hear a guy maybe explaining it to his partner what was happening in the game. So the awareness is there, and the guy, for people wanting to know, he was white. He wasn't like from diaspora or anything. So it was fun to see, interesting to see him like struggle to explain what was going on. What do the boundaries mean? How do they take runs? But it is expanding. But it's the contrast between where cricket is and where other sports are in the world. It's still a long way to go, but we're making it. Like almost the FIFA World Cup winner got 10x what the World Cup winner got in 2019, which was the same amount that is in 2023, $4 million. So definitely a bump up, but something to think about.
Yeah, so getting to the playoffs is very important. Top 4, 10 teams, everybody plays 9 matches. To safely qualify for the semis, every team has to ensure they win 7 matches, and they have the leniency to lose 2 matches. I mean, you can still qualify by winning 6 matches and losing 3, but then your net run rate will play a crucial role. I'll take you back to the last ODI World Cup. Pakistan and New Zealand were tied for points, and New Zealand qualified ahead of Pakistan because they had a better net run rate. I think the Pakistan game against West Indies, like you mentioned, they lost that by a huge margin, and they were never able to recover from that net run rate loss. So, like you mentioned, I think every single match is going to be critical. You cannot take any game lightly, whether it be against Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Netherlands. You have to be on your A game and make sure you deliver at your very best in every single match.
This is the reason I like this World Cup. It's very democratizing. If you're not a good team for 9 straight games, you will not make it through to the semis. And making it through the semis in this round robin type of situation where every team is playing 9 games is a big task. There's nothing to shy about it. If your team is making it into the semis in this sort of World Cup format, it's a good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when teams do get to the semis, so the top team, number 1 faces 4, number 2 faces 3. And I think it'll be just a spectacle to see who qualifies. It's hard to really pinpoint the top 4 teams. I have mine.
We'll do it
ready.
at the end. How
We'll
about
do it
that?
in the end.
Yeah, we gotta save retention for you guys. You guys gotta tune into the whole thing. You want to break down the teams?
I want to actually talk about the venues. And
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So before we get into the actual teams, so again, 45 matches plus 3 playoffs. Starting
45 matches.
45 plus 3 playoffs.
Yeah.
And then we have the tournament starting on the 5th of October to the 19th of November, which is when the finals are. We have warm-up matches starting in the next few days, so that'll be interesting to see. But getting to the venues, there's 10 grounds that.
And the warm-up, sorry to cut you off, but the warm-up matches also are televised.
They are televised.
So
correct.
you could tune in to see what exactly the combination is going and all that. So it's gonna be an interesting next few days before the World Cup officially starts.
Yeah, I think we'll get an idea of how the pitches might be, what players are in form. I think I always think that performances in warm-up matches sort of dictate who is the informed player and might even play a crucial part and maybe some players making the playing 11 over others. Current form is always very, very important. So yeah, getting to the venues of this World Cup, 10 grounds. Mumbai Wankhede Stadium, where India historically won the 2011 World Cup final. Dhoni hit the winning runs and Ravi Shastri called it out. There's the stadium in Chennai, Delhi, Eden Gardens, Kolkata, which used to be the largest capacity stadium in India, which is now overtaken by the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. There's a ground in Dharamshala, which I think is one of the most beautiful grounds in the world between mountains. There is the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru, where the home ground of RCB and Virat Kohli in the IPL. Super small boundaries, 60, 65 meters.
We just saw India score 400 on that ground, did we not?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Like,
outfields are quick, pitches are flat, boundaries are short. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if
Get
it's
the
a
point.
flat pitch like a mirror, and then you can see your reflection on that, you're gonna get hit for 400. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Even Netherlands could hit you for 400
They could.
potentially, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
So there's also Pune. There's, like I mentioned, Ahmedabad, Narendra Modi Stadium. There's also Hyderabad and Lucknow. So that's the 10 venues of the World Cup. Just to expand on what we're just discussing about the venues. So my prediction and based on my viewing of a lot of the matches in India, including the IPL, including the recent series against India and Australia, and I would say the majority of cricket that I have watched that happens in India, this is going to be a high-scoring World Cup. You're going to see 300 being scored, 350 being scored, 350 being chased by teams. So, don't be too overhauled when you see Shaheen, Haris, Hassan Ali get smacked around.
Stark. Saudi's not playing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be a very high-scoring
Pandya,
World
I want
Cup.
to see Pandya get scored for 80. Let's do it.
They will get scored. And it'll be like the same. So if Pandya is getting smashed, Shaheen's getting smashed, Siraj will get smashed. This will be a high scoring World Cup. But I think the conditions will support all aspects of cricket. The ball will swing up front. So if you can extract that swing, you'll be in the wickets. It might turn in the middle as the pitches get older and older throughout the course of the tournament. You'll see pitches deteriorate. You'll see them spin more. Spin will eventually play a crucial part in this World Cup. And like you said, like the outfields are going to be lightning quick, boundaries are going to be short, and most wickets are going to be roads. So high scoring. I cannot emphasize enough.
Yeah, I totally see that. So nobody should be freaking out if your team gets hit for 350 in the first innings. There is a big chance that they can come back and chase that if they just play with a little bit more, patience and just enjoy the game. Make sure the pitch is working in your favor. And the way you can do that is confidence. Make sure that you have the confidence to chase something like 350, and because these grounds will assist with that.
Absolutely. Let's get into the teams of this World Cup and previewing each team. So, like I mentioned before, we'll do it in order of how the ICC rankings are as of the date that we're recording this podcast. So, the number one team actually across formats right now is Team India.
Congratulations.
The only
man.
team to do it after South Africa in the past 10 years. So
shockingly, Australia's never done it, which makes me wonder about the whole legitimacy of the whole rankings. But that's a whole other podcast, isn't it?
I was hearing James Anderson on his podcast called Tailenders, and
Shout out Tailenders.
This was the podcast where he got announced as the number one ranked bowler in Test matches. And Jimmy Anderson didn't even know. Like he didn't even know he was number one until he was informed. And honestly speaking, he didn't even know why he's number one. Like nobody can really explain what ICC rankings are. Like even Pakistan was number one, but we became number two. Then Australia lost, so we went back to number one. And then India won, so we went back to number two. Rankings are weird. I don't know exactly how they work. I hope somebody can explain to me how they work. They are in place. It's good to say for a good branding that the India is the number one team or Babar is the number one batsman. But I just hope there's some more context behind what makes these rankings into rankings.
For me, it's not just being number one. For me, it's how long do you sustain it. So the only reason that I respect Babar Azam being number one is because he's been number one for it almost feels like forever. Like,
At least 2 to 3 years.
and so that has to be given some sort of weight. That has to be given some sort of leverage. Because you can't just sustain that for 2 to 3 years straight. So that's why I give it some more props. But I agree with you. The whole rankings. If you want a cricket crash course, if you want to give us one, explain us the DLS method. Like, how does that work? The Duckworth Lewis method. Explain us the rankings. Explain us the WTC rankings as well, because I don't know how that works. Those are the three at least that we should start off with a crash course. Give me like 20 minutes on each so I can actually understand what's going on. But yeah, number one team right now in the rankings is India. So we're going to start with Team India.
So they've announced their squad. I think Team India going into the Asia Cup, there was a lot of uncertainty around who's going to be in the team, who's going to be in the reserves, what the playing 11 is going to look. And I think, during the Asia Cup or before that, Pakistan looked like a more settled squad and India looked sort of like in shambles, like not really having any direction of where this team might go. But I think during the course of the Asia Cup, we saw India and Rohit Sharma form a strong combination. There was a lot of criticism about this player not being in the team, Sanju Samson or Yuzvendra Chahal. But I think in hindsight, I think Rohit Sharma has picked a very, very strong team. Do you want me to go through each player and just to talk about them?
If you want, but my oh my, how much can change in 3 weeks? That's all I was thinking about while you were saying that. If you want, you can run through the squad real quick.
Okay, so it's Rohit Sharma, the captain, Hardik Pandya, vice captain, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, Ravindra Jadeja, Shardul Thakur, Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Siraj, Kuldeep Yadav, Mohammad Shami, Akshar Patel, Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav, and just asterisk, Akshar Patel is injured right now, so they've put, I think Ashwin is the backup bowler for them. So again, Akshar Patel being replaced by an experienced Ashwin.
Only one reserve for them.
Only one reserve for them. So
interesting.
And if I just go towards just the strengths of this Indian team, I feel like their biggest strength is going to be home advantage. These players have grown up playing in India. They've had a wealth of experience playing in the IPL and pressure situations. I do think that the World Cup pressure might be different than any IPL match you've ever played. But there is a certain home advantage of just knowing the conditions, what a good score might be on these pitches, where to ball, like for Siraj or Shami Bumrah, what lengths to ball up front, how to best make use of these conditions and exploit them to their favor.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like India is one of the favorites, at least in the top four. Spoilers for the rest of the podcast. But the last time India won a World Cup was at home in 2011, courtesy of some of the best performances you've seen in Indian cricket in a very long time. Zaid Khan was like belligerent in that World Cup, took 21 wickets. Crazy. So like they definitely have that edge for playing at home. And it's actually going to be fun to see which teams can beat them at home. Because right now, like I said, 3 weeks can change everything. They seem like a well-rounded squad. Rohit Sharma knows exactly how to extract every ounce of cricket from these players. You have the experience like Virat Kohli in the team. And even Pandya is at this point where he's one of the experienced candidates. So it's going to be a good one to watch. Like I said, I'd want to see which teams can come over across the line against India. It'll be a huge feat.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think they do have a good combination of seniors and junior players. And even the junior players, like, yes, maybe they are juniors in terms of international experience, but I think they're well groomed.
I also think that they actually have a lot of pressure on them. Since 2011, they haven't won an ICC event.
2013, actually, correction. They won the Champions Trophy.
My bad. 2013. It's been exactly 10 years since they've won an ICC event. And it's been a decade since we've seen the likes of the greats, of the Rohit Sharmas, the Virat Kohlis of the world. Even Pandyas have now become one of the spokesperson of the Indian cricket team, but they haven't won anything. Lots of playoffs, a couple of finals, but not really anything else to sustain. Now, with home crowd advantage, home ground condition advantage, it almost seems like a no-brainer that they should make it to the playoffs. If they don't see the cover of a finals, you think that's an upset?
Absolutely. 100% it is. It's going to be up. And I just think, like we're just talking about the home advantage. I think it could be a double edged sword with how big the Indian market is, how big India as a country is. These players will be traveling around hotels, buses, grounds, and everybody will be telling them one thing is to win the World Cup. I've heard interviews of players who won the 2011 World Cup from India, and that's what they mentioned was just yes, the advantage of playing in India was great, but the added pressure of playing in India in front of your home crowd, everybody's expectation is that because it's in India, it'll have to be India who wins. But again, performances will need to be put up by these players. And I think India does have the right combination now. They have the bench strength to, if they have injuries, like Surya Kumar Yadav is also now in form. Shubman Gill is in sublime form. Virat Kohli might be past the peak of his powers, but he is still better than any ordinary batsman on any day. Rohit Sharma now seems to be, just putting the pedal on the metal and attacking in the power play and sort of conveying the message by leading from the front by playing an aggressive brand of cricket. So yeah, just I think India right now peaking at the right time, which I would say is a huge advantage. But some of the weaknesses, if we talk about the Indian team, is oftentimes I've noticed in big tournaments that they're so heavily reliant on their top three. Like if I take you back to the 2017 Champions Trophy or the 2019 World Cup, their top three scored the bulk of their runs, which is great. It's awesome. Rohit Sharma, 2019 World Cup scored 500s. Ridiculous. But when it comes to big matches, if their top three flops, and because their top three has scored so many runs, their middle order is undercooked, not fully exposed to pressure in big matches, like a semifinal, like a final, if the Indian top three flops, the middle order might be in a lot of pressure. And just a World Cup, a knockout match, I'm not sure how well they'll be able to sustain. 2019 World Cup semifinal, we saw that happen. 2017 Champions Trophy final, we saw that happen. So I just think being a bit too heavily reliant on their top order could backfire on them as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that they'll have to sort of manage as the games go through. I don't think their top three is as strong as it used to be, at least in the 2019 World Cup. No points taken away from Shubman Gill and Rohit Sharma or Kohli. It just like age is real. That's all I'm saying. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage that. Do you want to go into the next team now?
One last point I wanted to just come back to what you mentioned.
Yeah, you really want those Indian CTRs, don't you? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
India's one of the weaknesses that they've had in the last 10 years, like you mentioned, they haven't won a tournament. But at the same time, like it's been their ability to choke and find new ways of losing in ICC knockout matches, starting off from the 2014 World T20 final up until the last T20 World Cup semifinal. They've found a new way to lose every single match. Their top order flopping, their bowlers getting smashed for runs. And I don't know why that's so. It's hard to pinpoint an exact reason, but I think if when the time comes, if India is put under pressure, I am not sure how they will bounce back.
Yeah, that's true. The one that stands out to me, the 2019 World Cup, where was it that World Cup where they failed to take any wickets in the semifinal? They got rolled over for 10 wickets.
2022 against England. Yeah, Butler and Alex Hill smashed them.
That's
Chased
crazy.
170 with, I believe, a couple of overs to spare.
Yeah, it was the T20 World Cup final, right? Semifinal.
Yeah,
tough one, man. That was a tough one. And that's what I'm saying. Like they're gonna, as much as the home conditions agree with you, they can quickly disagree with you as well. Because the amount of pressure of people actually watching in the stands, they're all there for you. It becomes a lot of weighted expectations. I mean, the credit goes to the Indian players though. They've played high quality, intense IPL games in these same grounds with hundred thousands of people watching them. So they should be well versed. But only time will tell.
Just a few players to look out for in the Indian team. I would say the Indian top three. So Gill, Rohit, and Kohli, plus Kuldeep Yadav. and Mohammad Siraj. I think these players are in prime form, and they're looking extremely, extremely dangerous. So if I would pinpoint, I think these could be the match winners for India. Obviously, they have a lot more great players in their team, but just from my opinion, I would just pinpoint on these people to watch out for.
All right, cool. So the next team, number 2 team on the ICC rankings right now is Pakistan.
So the Pakistan squad, lots were talked about of the Pakistan squad.
We did a whole episode
on it.
Yep.
The squad that we have right now is Babar Azam as captain, Shadab Khan vice captain, Fakhr Zaman, Imam ul Haq, Abdullah Shafiq, Mohammad Rizwan, Saud Shakil, Iftikhar Ahmed, Salman Ali Agha, Mohammad Nawaz, Osama Mir, Haris Rove, Hassan Ali, Shaheen Afridi, and Muhammad Wasim. A huge blow was losing Naseem Shah. So we mentioned a lot about the Pakistan fast bowling trio and how it's developing and sort of becoming a force to reckon with. But with Naseem Shah's injury, the trio is weakened and it's been disrupted. And we've seen Hassan Ali being called back, who has not played an ODI match in 1 year. So just I think going into such a huge tournament and with the form and potential that Naseem Shah was bowling at, this is going to be a massive blow and hard to recover for Pakistan from this.
But all trust in Hassan Ali for this because he has been a big match player. People have been debating online about, Muhammad Amir should have been in the team. He was your best bowler in the World T20. Sorry, he was the best bowler in the Champions Trophy final in 2017. Took the first 3 wickets, yada, yada, yada. And people forget. And it's just really funny to me that people actually forget. Yeah, Muhammad Amir was great in that one match, but guess who the player of the tournament was? Hassan Ali.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you get the player of the tournament who's been consistent in that whole tournament over one player? You know, I get the whole big match.
And also, Amir is just not available for selection. Like, he's retired right now.
Facts. Yeah, I don't know what delusion.
If you want to pick him up, he's not available. Like,
Yeah.
He's just not there.
Yeah, exactly. So if people are living in this delusional world where Amir is going to take back retirement for Pakistan, well, keep dreaming, buddy. But yeah, so Hassan Ali is back in the team. He's going to be a strike bowler as well. Babar Azam's press conference sort of alluded that even he doesn't want to, put stuff in concrete about how he's going to manage the team. Like, is Hassan going to get the first ball or he's going to be the first change? He doesn't know yet. So he wants to sort of play out the warm-up matches, I believe, try him out with the new ball, try him out with the little bit of an older ball as well, see how that works. But definitely the top 3 batters, Fakhr, Imam, and Babar.
Fakhr, Imam, and Babar. Damn. So ABD is not there?
I mean,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're gonna play with Fakhr. Like, you know this. Like, this is not. I'm not breaking news here, am I?
Well, I mean, isn't current form more important?
No, big match players you talked about, right? If Fakhr can step up into the Netherlands game and the first game and just score 50, 70, 80, 100, whatever, he needs one game to come back in the World Cup. If that's the game and Fakhr finds his form in the start of the World Cup, would you not want a blistering Fakhr in the top 3 rather than a anchoring ABD?
I totally agree with you. I would want to see Fakhr being given a proper chance at the 2 warm-up matches that we have, just in hopes that he will regain his form, because on Fakhr Zaman's day, he could be your match winner. He is proven to us time and time again that he is that big match player. And when he's on song, it's very hard for teams to stop him. So, and also, I feel like with Abdullah Shafiq and Imam opening, those 2 are anchors. And I think if they're playing their natural game, we might see Pakistan score like 40 or 35 in the first 10 overs. So that's not the ideal start with teams that are playing modern day cricket.
There is a gaping hole because if Fakhr doesn't get informed and ABD is inexperienced, then you have literally your number 1 is a question mark. And you cannot be 12 for 1, 15 for 1, 20 for 1 in these World Cup games. You need a solid start. Just like how England got their start against Ireland. They had their century in the first 8 overs. They crossed 100. So that's the type of cricket that modern day cricket is. But I just want to roll it back 1 second. Modern day cricket has been playing in international cricket for the better part of the past 6 to 8 years. And Pakistan just does not subscribe to it. And Pakistan just does not play modern cricket. It plays cricket on their own ways. If you remember the Champions Trophy semi-final, I believe it was, or the game against Sri Lanka, Pakistan was struggling to chase 230. That's just what Pakistan is. You know, Pakistan was struggling to chase 240 against New Zealand in the World Cup in 2019. Like, that's just what Pakistan cricket is. Like, in the same World Cup, Pakistan scored 350 against England, who ended up winning the World Cup. And then the same tournament, there was like definitely struggling to get 240 against New Zealand. So it's it's the way that Pakistan wants to play. They're a team that could easily go out there and score 400, and they're easily a team that could struggle to chase 180.
So my theory behind why Pakistan has not played modern day cricket, it's because of the fans. When you're playing high risk modern day cricket, there is more chances of failure than success. And when the Pakistan team loses one match, the whole media starts a riot. There's campaigns against players and captains. And that's also why we never see a B string Pakistan team play against a Netherlands, in Afghanistan. We're still playing all of our A-list players, um, our core players against these big teams. It's because of the fear of failure and losing. So, but I do wish to live to see the day where Pakistan does play modern cricket because we do have the players and resources to do that.
What other weaknesses are we looking at for this World Cup squad?
You know, when I was making the list, the weaknesses for Pakistan team just kept on going and
I
going.
see
and
that.
going.
There's at least like 10 points here.
I think one of the big weaknesses is the fact that none of these Pakistan players have played in India apart from Mohammad Nawaz, who was part of the 2016 T20 World Cup
He
team.
didn't play a game, though.
He didn't play a game, but maybe well in the nets. Also, surprisingly, Salman Ali Agha, he played in India. In 2013, he was there playing for Lahore Lions in the Champions League T20.
Oh my God, what a league.
Yeah.
What a flashback.
Mohammad Hafiz was the captain of Lahore, and so he played a few matches there. But that was like 10 years ago. Like things have changed.
Whatever happened to that league? That was a fun league.
That was a fun league.
Like even with the current setup of domestic T20 leagues, that would have been a really fun league to be part of.
It would have been. I think they should bring it back somehow, because I would love to see the top team of the IPL, CPL, PSL. I do think there might be some overlap with the players, and ultimately they might just go play for the IPL team just because, you know, money talks.
But there's one team in the IPL though, right?
Yeah.
So whichever one wins, those players would probably prefer the IPL team. But then you still have like 8 other teams because every country has a T20 league. But we're running on a tangent now. The lack of a specialist spinner is something that you've highlighted here, and that's something I also want to talk about. Abrar Ahmed is in the reserves, and you know Babur has stuck with stuck with Nawaz and stuck with Iftikhar as your routine
Shadab.
spinners. Of course, Shadab as well as your main spinner. Do you think his trust and loyalty will pan out?
I think you're like Babar Azam was just so deep into it that it's hard for him to pull out of this tournament and sort of replace Shadab and Nawaz with last minute Abrar or Imar Wasim. I think Babar's mentality is like whatever happened will happen now.
He will either rise with the ship or sink with the ship.
Absolutely, that's what the mentality is, and you know, if he trusts his player so much, if he gives him confidence, the backing, this is a weakness right now as you're speaking. Mohammad Nawaz and Shadab Khan not taking wickets in the middle overs is a huge weakness, but if they come back into form, this weakness could turn into their strength. Shadab Khan is a big match, big tournament player. He has turned up for Pakistan in the last few ICC tournaments. And I just think it's a matter of one good game, getting back into bowling longer overs, longer spells. And an informed Shadab Nawaz could make this Pakistan team a dangerous one.
I just think one win against India will change the shape of this entire narrative, but we'll see. Is there anything else you want to talk about Pakistan before we move on?
Yeah, I just think Hassan Ali coming back into the team, not too experienced like in recent matches, and then not having a good fast bowling all-rounder like all the other teams do. India has Pandya, Australia has Mitch Marsh, Stoinis, Cameron Green. England has Wokes. They have Sam Curran.
Stokes.
Pakistan, I think it's high time we gotta go back, groom an all-rounder. Wasim Jr. I count as a fourth seamer, not an all-rounder. I'm yet to see a good innings from him. But yeah, that's just the Pakistan preview. And players to look out for will be Babar Azam.
Of course.
I think this will be his coming of age. Babar Azam has proved to everybody that he can score runs in every format, in every country. He has centuries against every Sena team in every Sena country aside from New Zealand. He was one of
He
the
doesn't
top
have a century against New Zealand?
in New Zealand.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He does have a century
The
against
last time
them.
Pakistan toured New Zealand, he had a broken something.
He broke his thumb.
So fair enough.
So I'm just, it's a matter of time whenever he goes there, he will score 100 hopefully. But just speaking right now, Babar Azam I think he will enjoy these pitches, the ball coming on into the bat, flat pitches, and just playing proper cricketing shots. And obviously I think hardest stroke and China Afridi, pace is pace. Shaheen with the new ball up front, and Haris Rauf in the middle overs, and the death will be, I think, the main players for Pakistan to look
Just
up.
another glaring stat for Babar Azam to think upon, and he was asked about this in the press conference as well. No centuries against India.
No 50s,
No 50s against
in
India in
ODIs.
ODIs. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
So I am seeing that he's probably eyeing the game against India at the Modi Stadium. If he tends to score there, that's the most flattest pitch on earth. Honestly speaking, like it's up there with the Pindi pitch with how flat it is. Shubman Gill loves playing there. He has many hundreds in the IPL on that ground. So can't wait for the 14th. Is it?
Yeah, 14th, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Tough one.
Going to the Australian team. This squad got announced. Pat Cummins captain, Steve Smith, Alex Carey, Josh Inglis, Sean Abbott, Ashton Agar, Cameron Green, Josh Hazelwood, Travis Head, Mitch Marsh, Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, David Warner, Adam Zampa, and Mitchell Stark.
Australia have not won a single ODI in the last 5 ODIs they've played.
And despite that, everybody is still counting them in their top 4. That just shows you that this Australian team, or any Australian team, when it comes to ICC tournaments, they're absolutely ruthless. You cannot count them out. I'm trying to think of the last tournament where they weren't able to make semis. I think maybe the 2020, 2019, 17 Champions Trophy. The last time they weren't able to make semis.
In an ICC event?
In an ICC.
I feel like that's wrong.
Actually, the last T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last T20 World Cup, who was it? It was Pakistan, India, England, and New Zealand. Yeah. So they didn't. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be honest. This Australian team doesn't seem to have that flair that I'm used to with an Australian team. That being said, I thought the same about the 2021 T20 World Cup Australian team, and who even the hell is Matthew Wade? Like, whatever happened there. So, like you said, you can never rule them out. These players may look a little bit out of form. They haven't won a single ODI in the past 5 ODIs. Zampa just feels like he's a run machine. Goes for like a century every game. It feels like that. But then again, you are playing in India. Pitches are flat. Boundaries are shorter, etc., etc. So Australia, you cannot rule them out, but they do seem like they are going through a rough patch right now. And I would be actually pleasantly surprised to see them in the top 4. They're not in our top 4. Surprisingly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going off a recency bias. And I think there are a few other teams in that group that may be a little bit better. Because I just don't see this team winning 7 straight games.
I just think you're not considering the fact that Mitchell Stark was not in the last series. Some of their other A-list players were on the bench. So, I mean, I'm always a huge advocate of like batting wins you matches, but bowling wins you tournaments. And when you have a bowling attack with Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, Zampa, and then on top of that, you have all-rounders like Maxwell, Stoinis, Mitch Marsh, Cam Green. I just think they have a lot of depth in their team. They have like they're ready for every single scenario. If it's a spinning track, they have many bowlers who can bowl spin. If they need like overs out of pacers, they have again many all-rounders on their team, which also adds depth both to their batting and their bowling.
But how are they with spin though? Australia is notorious for being a side that's not very well adept with spin. And one thing we know about Indian conditions is that the track turns at least a little bit. It's not West Indian, Sri Lankan turn, but it is enough to rattle them. And we did see them kind of struggle in the early days. How will they fare against like a Kuldeep Yadav or Wellalage or even I want to say Shadab on a good day? It'd be tough for him.
Absolutely. I think playing the ability to play spin for them will be something that the teams will look and try to like trap them with, like try to spin a web around not just the Australian team, but I would even say a lot of these Sena countries, like when they're going to India, they might get troubled with the spin. But to counter that, what I may say is that a lot of the Australian players do play in the IPL. So they do have that experience of playing in these conditions and these pitches. So they just have that edge of having that familiarity with these conditions. So even though I think, it is a big weakness for them to not being able to play spin, we'll see when the tournament starts how much the pitches do spin and how critical spin bowling will be in this tournament.
South Asian conditions do warrant usually that a South Asian team becomes a champion. If you see the 96 World Cup, it was played in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, I believe. Sri Lanka came out on top of that. If you look at the 2011 World Cup, India came out on top of that. Um, even the 2016 T20 World Cup, I believe, was won by Sri Lanka.
No, 2016 T20 World Cup was won by West Indies.
Oh yeah, true,
Carlos
true, true.
Brathwaite.
Carlos Brathwaite. Remember the name? I guess I forgot.
You forgot the name.
I guess I forgot the name. But like historically, they've sort of come out and been the better team, because of the conditions. So it'll be tough for us for Australia to make it out. Like I said, top 4 looks tough for me.
Yeah, and if I just say players to watch out for, I would say David Warner, who was our second highest run scorer of the last ODI World Cup, and then Mitchell Starc. I just think these two players turn up in big ICC events, and it could be their last World Cups, and I just think they want to make the biggest impact that they can. David Warner, one of the IPL legends, Mitchell Starc, just has the ability to have the killer instinct when it comes to these tournaments, and he wants to perform at his best for Australia. That's his priority. He's often, missed the IPL to prepare for Ashes or prepare for bigger series. So that's where his priority is at. Next team is South Africa, the dark horses of ICC events. Something to call out for South Africa. I just realized when I was doing these notes is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but South Africa has not made the playoffs of an ICC event since 2015. Take that in.
That's crazy. That's a crazy stat. Feels like they're always there, but I guess not. Oh wow.
I think pre-tournament, everybody says South Africa is going to be the dark horses. They'll turn up and they're on paper, they're the best team. But something happens and they just crumble in these ICC events, or they've been crumbling in the recent past ICC events.
That's true now that I think about it. Yeah. It just feels like their players are more, they don't seem like a team, man, like they used to in the late 2000s under Graham Smith. They just feel like they're just in it to, fulfill national duty and then play the leagues, because that's what they keep on doing.
You may say it's a lack of leadership, and just going through their team, it's Temba Bavuma, Gerald Coetzee, Quinton de Kock, Reza Hendricks, Marco Jansen, Henrik Clausen, Sisandi Magala, Keshav Maharaj, Aidan Markram, David Miller, Lungi Ngidi, Andrek Norkia, Kagiso Rabada, Tabre Shamsi, Rusty van der Dussen. And the latest news is that Norkia has picked up an injury, so he might miss a big part of the World Cup or the whole tournament as is, which I think would be a huge blow, because he's the one that sort of adds the X factor in the South African bowling. He has that extra pace, one of the fastest bowlers in the world right now. So with him being out, I think dents the chances, if any, that South Africa had.
Yeah, the tournament of injuries, man. I would have loved to see, because when we had Shane Bond on the podcast, it was really fun to talk to him about 2003 World Cup, which was a tournament of pace. You had Shea Buck there, you had himself, you had Brett Lee, you had all these, like, even Sean Pollock bowls at a decent pace. This one I felt like would have been a good companion to that World Cup. It just seems like all the pacers are out. Jeffrey Archer is out now. Norkia is out.
Naseem Shah's out.
Naseem Shah, he was an 150 bowler, but he could rack it up. Seems like Haris Rauf is like the only one that's going to be hitting 150. Mark Wood, I was just going to say, might be the second one. Stark, and he's pissed off, can hit
Lockie Ferguson could be sometimes lethal.
Sure, yeah. But it's like not. It would have been so much fun if Jofra Archer was in it, like in 2019, and Norkia was in it. Like, it would just been a different World Cup to be a part of. But yeah, tough. It seems really tough, especially for South Africa out there.
But I still feel like their bowling is their strength, with Rabada there, with Ngidi there, with Marco Jansen, tall left armor, and especially I think their X factor player is going to be Tabre Shamsi in these conditions. He's sort of similar to a Kuldeep Yadav, where he's a left arm leg spinner and has a really good googly, varies his pace. So I think he might be their X factor player. Also, I think their batting has a good mix of being explosive and being like having stability. Quinton de Kock is there for explosiveness. Henrik Clausen just scored a great century, one of the fastest for South Africa. They also had David Miller in the end, and to provide stability, they have a Rusty van der Dussen, I think the number 2nd or 3rd ranked batsman in the world right now. Aidan Markram,
alumni.
Yeah, we spoke to him in one of the post-match press conferences. Yeah. Very, very nice guy. And also Temba Bavuma is there himself as well.
How do you rate Temba Bavuma as the captain?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like I feel like he's the Shanaka of South Africa, where he might be a good captain, but I just don't see his place in the team. I'm yet to see performances that might convince me
He
otherwise.
scored a few centuries recently. Like he's been in good nick.
Yeah. I think he's good in ODIs. I have reservations against him in T20s. But I would love to see more of him more closely. I just think because Pakistan has not played South Africa recently, I haven't seen much of him, especially in ODIs. I think Pakistan, when they went to South Africa in 2021, they beat South Africa 2-1 in that series.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. That's
Yeah.
true.
But again, they're like one of their weaknesses is that they're chokers in ICC events. They have that tag on them. They look good on paper, but they just sort of crumble. And I'm not sure about Bavuma as their captain.
Yeah. Players to look out for?
De Kock, his last ODI World Cup, he's announced that he's retiring, and he wants to focus on T20s and T20 leagues just because that's more financially viable. As for a player, we recently saw Alex Sales retire from international cricket to focus on leagues, and I think Quinton de Kock is doing the same thing. So I think he wants to go out with a bang, have a point to prove, and make an unforgettable impact for his team. Like I mentioned, Tabresham sees the X factor, and then as a fast bowler myself, I would love to see Rabada making an impact up front.
Yeah, that's true. I think South Africa is always like a fun team to watch, but historically they just get swept. So it'll be again another team that I don't see making winning more than 5 or 6 games in this World Cup because it's tough out there, man. Winning 7 out of 9 to make it through the playoffs, you don't understand how tough it is. It's really, really hard. So you have to be on your A game consistently.
Next, going to the England team, the defending champions. Shocking that they're like number 5 or 6 on the rankings. Also, sort of shows like do rankings really matter? Like the defending champions are at number 5 or 6, but people are still counting them as the top 2, top 3 teams that will go into this World Cup. And their squad looks dangerous, man. I'm telling you, this is a dangerous squad. Josh Butler, Moeen Ali, Gus Atkinson, Johnny Bairstow, Sam Curran, Liam Livingstone, David Milan, Adil Rashid, Joe Root, Harry Brook, Ben Stokes, Breeze Topley is back, David Willey, Mark Wood, Chris Wokes. This England team is so good that they dropped Jason Roy just the last series.
That's insane.
And he is one of their prolific ODI openers. And then one of their main players missing out due to injury is Jofra Archer.
I feel like these guys have always been injured. Since 2019, this guy has not played a whole tournament that's not been off the grid.
Okay, so yeah, some of the strengths is obviously they're defending champions. They play with a fearless attitude. They're explosive with the bat. Not afraid to take risks and put the pressure on the other team. So I think either they will explode or they will implode. There might not be in between, but but they do have like similar to South Africa. Like they have the players who can be explosive, mixed with players who can provide stability, like a David Milan, like a Joe Root, mixed with a Liam Livingston, mixed with the Ben Stokes and a Harry Brook. So I think England's it's going to be dangerous. They also rely heavily on all-rounders. They have a Moeen Ali, they have a Sam Curran, Chris Wokes, Liam Livingstone, David Willey, Ben Stokes. Although he's not bowling, but he could be the difference between.
Didn't he just score 180 runs?
He did, but he's not bowling, right? So he's a batsman right now.
If they need him to, will he not? But will they need him to? That's the question.
Not. They might not.
Like they just seem like they're stacked in all the departments. They wouldn't need a Ben Stokes to be bowling, which is kind of good for Ben Stokes' longevity. He doesn't need to bowl like 6-7 overs in a game. He can just focus more on his batting, fielding, be out there in the field longer than other players and longer in terms of years as well. Like look at him, just came back out of retirement to play the World Cup. That's insane,
Absolutely crazy. And I think one of the things that goes in England's favor is that 8 of their players that have played the last World Cup are being carried over into this World Cup. So I think knowing how to win a World Cup, an ODI World Cup, is very critical. I think maybe in this whole World Cup, if you look at it, I think Virat Kohli's won a World Cup, Rohit Sharma's won a World Cup, Steve Smith, Maxwell, Stark, that 15 Australian team, and then those 8 players from the England team, they know how to win an ODI World Cup. So I think that'll be invaluable experience for these players coming into India. And then, like I mentioned, I think they just look like a complete squad who tick all the boxes that are possible.
They're going to want to repeat. That's why the eight players that you saw in the World Cup prior are coming back. It would have been 9 if Jofra wasn't injured because they would literally want to play the same 11 they were playing. Much like Australia did it in 2003 and 2007. It was like the same players coming back and winning everything. Especially Ponting did it 3 times. Insane. So yeah, like I totally get that tactic. Maybe that was one of the reasons that Ben Stokes was called back. but a formidable side, not to say the least. Like you can have. They are the reasons that modern cricket has become more interesting to watch, which is shocking because they used to be the most mediocre team in their 2000s and early 2010s.
2015, they were knocked out by Bangladesh.
Yeah, and like imagine that, and now they've become like one of those teams that you always love to play. The Ashes are way more interesting because of them. Just like whatever series they're playing, it's more interesting. I was watching the series they were playing against Ireland. I mean, I'm interested now because I want to see what they do. They're explosive. They had 100 in the first 8 overs. So just like a sight for sore eyes, that's a team to watch. That's a team that's capable of winning 7 on the trot and going for the title again.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
And I would say Ben Stokes, Butler, and Adil Rashid will be my players to look out for on the England team. Going forward to the New Zealand team, I think this is going to be a difficult review just because I want them to win. I want them to move forward to the top 4. But just with the injuries and the last minute changes, it might look difficult. Kane Williamson is in their team. Trent Bolt is back. Mark Chapman, Devin Conway, Lockie Ferguson, Matt Henry, Tom Latham, Daryl Mitchell, Jimmy Neesham, Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra, Mitch Santner, Ish Sodhi, Tim Southey, Will Young. But the news is that Tim Southey just went through a thumb operation for his fractured thumb, and he might or might not be able to make it back into the squad for the World Cup.
I just read literally right before we started this podcast that he's cleared and he's going to the World Cup.
Well, I hope so because
I don't know if he's going as a mentor or as a player. I can't tell.
It'll be tough because I think the finger he broke, is it his bowling finger? Like,
it's his right hand finger. Yeah.
So that's just where he grips the ball from. It'll be tough because he's a swing bowler. Every single finger sort of matters of how it's placed, how the ball is released for the ball to swing. So it'll just be tough. And then also Kane Williamson, he has not played a match since the game he got injured in March. So I think if I do the quick math, it's been 6 to 7 months since he's played a competitive match or any match for that matters. He is one of the batsmen in the Fab 5. But I would love to see how he comes back, if he even gets a chance to come back, and how does he do? Because he's their number 3 batsman.
Do you ever lose your greatness?
I think it comes and goes. I mean, it's always there. But
Williamson is the greatest of all time
for New Zealand. Yes.
Yes. I mean, I was talking about in the context of New Zealand. I feel like a dagger is from the Kohli and Babar Azam fan base suddenly. I mean, in New Zealand, like he's the greatest of all time in New Zealand in the context of the New Zealand team. So,
but
I don't know.
It doesn't matter how great you are if you just leave playing cricket or the thing that you're great at for 6 months. Yes, things might come back as muscle memory because you've practiced so much. But it'll be tough, man. I don't know how Williamson will need to play out of his skin to come back into the side and score runs again in the long format, because I mean he's coming back from a ACL rupture in his knee. So fitness will play a key role. Like, I don't know how fit he is. Can he bat 50 overs? Can he field 50 overs on top of that? It'll be tough to see.
Yeah, truly. And I wouldn't give him any discredit if he's not able to pull that off, because that is going to be an insane feat to go into the finals again or try to move the whole thing, needle ahead, and finally win it for New Zealand. It's going to be a whole other level of sportsmanship and hard work that, if he's not up to it, we can't dock him for that.
Yeah, they do have an experienced bowling attack with Trent Bolt, Matt Henry, Lockie Ferguson, and then Mitch Santner and Ish Sodhi. So I think they have a complete bowling attack, pretty much the same one that played the last World Cup. So it's also very experienced. And if I would just call out the players to look out for, I would say Trent Bolt up front with the new ball will be tough to play. Devin Conway might be a solid player for them in the top order, who might score a lot of their runs.
And shout out to the New Zealand Cricket Board for the way they announced their squad. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely. I think that was super cute. I would love to see maybe other teams find unique ways of announcing their team.
Like announcing it a day before the World Cup. Like that'd be great. Like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka just did.
Speaking That's a great segue to
right?
the next.
I like that, right? Yeah. Segue into Bangladesh, which literally is like, who's the captain? I don't know. They're like
so much drama. So much drama,
I
man.
love it.
Like,
give it to me.
They could make a Star Plus drama on the Bangladesh team.
Give it to me. I want it.
With what happened with the Tamim being the captain for the World Cup, being called out for his fitness, resigning, meeting the prime minister, coming back, being unfit, Shakib taking over, and then the latest news is that Tamim mentioned to the coach and Shakib that he is fit for the World Cup, but only 5 games. And then Shakib was like, no. We don't want you for the whole tournament, or we don't want you at all. So the cricket board of Bangladesh have decided to drop Tamim Iqbal,
Just wild.
which is wild.
After the whole month that he's had being dropped because of his fitness, that's crazy.
Yes. So, and then they just announced their squad thing today or yesterday.
It was today, I think.
Which is Shakib Al Hasan, the captain, Mushfiqur Rahim, Litan Das is the vice captain, Najmul Hossain Shanto, Tawheed Ridoy, Mehdi Hassan Miraz, Taskin Ahmed, Mustafizur Rahman, Hassan Mahmood, Shorif Ul Islam, Nasum Ahmed, Mehdi Hassan, Tanzim Hassan, Mahmudullah. Some of these names are tongue twisters.
You are brown.
I apologize if I butcher any of them.
You are brown. You should know these names.
I am brown, but I'm from a Pakistani dialect.
Yeah, your ancestors came from East Pakistan. I know this.
My ancestors, not me.
I meant like your dad. That's crazy. All right. Well, I guess this is what happens when you live in the West too long, guys.
I'm
You get
whitewash, guys. I'm like a coconut.
Yeah.
But some of the strengths, I think, will be that they are a team that relies heavily on their spin. And these conditions will suit them. There might be a bit similar to what the Bangladesh conditions will be. They have good spinners in the shape of Shakib, who's also very experienced. They also have a lot of experience in their batting. Like Shakib is there. They have Litan Das, who's an up-and-coming batsman. I think he's one of the best from Bangladesh. They have experience, again, with Mahmudullah, Mushfiqur Rahim. I think Mushfiqur Rahim and Shakib were part of their 07 World Cup team as well. So I think going into the World Cup with these conditions, also keeping in mind that their bowling attack is looking a lot more formidable, with Taskin Ahmed being at the top of his game, Mustafiz being back, Shoriful being back, and then with Shakib and Mehdi Hassan in the middle overs, this will probably be a very good Bangladesh team. But again, like some of their weaknesses are that they crumble under pressure. They love to throw away matches that you can imagine. How can Bangladesh lose from here? They will show you how to.
But you know what? Something about Bangladesh that's fun is that, like you said, they're the team that have caused the most upsets at World Cups, beating India, beating England. They're just one of those teams that can sort of come back. I don't have them in my top 4, surprisingly, but it'll be fun to see what they can do against Australia. They even beat Australia at a World Cup, did they? Am I dreaming that?
No, they beat Australia in an
ODI game.
match.
Okay, but
2004.
Yeah, but they're capable of doing things like that. They're really formidable in South Asian conditions. Like, they're really good. The fact that New Zealand won their first series against Bangladesh since 2008, just now, that's crazy. That's a crazy stat to me. So they're doing good, but we also have to have a conversation about how long we're going to call Bangladesh the newbies in world cricket. It's a high time that they step up and take some responsibility. I mean, they're just as old as Sri Lanka was when they won their first World Cup. So, like, there's something definitely wrong in the BCB, as we can already tell. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can do up in the World Cup. The next team, though, is Sri Lanka, and I do have in the notes that you don't have their World Cup squad announced, but the squad is announced.
I think it just got announced today.
Yeah, so I'll relay it to you. We got Dasun Chanaka as the captain. We got Kusal Mendes as the vice captain. We got Kusal Pereira, Patum Nisanka, Dimut Karunaratne, Sadira Samaravikrama, Charit Asalanka, Dhananjaya De Silva, Dushan Hemanta, Mahish Tikshana, even though I thought he was injured, Dhunish Valalage, Kasun Rajita, Matisha Patirana, Lahiru Kumara, and Dilshan Madhushanka.
Not that easy, is it?
These ones are tougher.
Come on, man.
These ones are tougher. And the traveling reserves are Chamika Karunaratne. That's the traveling reserve.
Okay. So, I mean, I think
things.
the main thought is that some of their big players are injured. Like Chamira, their main strike fast bowler is not there. The biggest loss for Sri Lanka is that Hasaranga has aggravated his hamstring injury, and he's one of the top all-rounders in the world right now. One of the main bowlers for Sri Lanka. So for Hasaranga to not be there was going to be a huge blow. Even though they did pretty well without him in the Asia Cup, but I just think his googly is still something that teams have not picked up yet, and he's rolled over teams on his day. And I think he could have been just a great player to watch in the World Cup in these conditions. But Sri Lanka, it looks tough, man, for them. There are a lot of glaring weaknesses. Like, they're very inexperienced. Their captain is a good captain, but he has not delivered as a player. They were actually considering, or Shanaka was considering stepping down as the captain because he wasn't able to perform to his standards as a player. but I think they've picked him out as a leader for the World Cup, and they want him to continue leading the Sri Lankan team. But I would love to see what this team could do. Sri Lanka on their day, again, like Bangladesh, could upset any team. And I wouldn't necessarily say they're in my top 4, but I would not rule them out of any match.
And I would love for them to upset teams that are, upsetting Pakistan, because that's what we hope for in this podcast all the time.
And I would look out for Bulalage. How did Wasim Bhai say Bulalage's name?
Wella Lalage.
Bulalage. So,
No, Wella Lalage.
Nice. So I would say he's a good up and coming player for Sri Lanka. Left arm spinner, has a good arm ball, has a ball that turns a lot, a great all-rounder, gun fielder. So him alongside with Saul Mendes, because he's just been in really great batting form in the Asia Cup. If he continues this in the World Cup, he'll be a dangerous player.
And ironically, the next team we have to discuss announced their squad. One of the first teams to announce their squad was Afghanistan. Their squad is Hashmatullah Shahidi as captain, Rahmanullah Gurbaz. Is he vice captain?
I don't know.
No vice captain listed here. Ibrahim Zadran, Riaz Hassan, Rahmat Shah, Najimullah Zadran, Muhammad Nabi, Ikram Akhil, Ikram Ali Khail.
Ali Khail, yeah.
Ali Khail, Azmatullah Umar Zai, Rashid Khan, Mujibur Rahman, Noor Ahmad, Fazlul Haq Faruqi. Fazl Haq Faruqi. Yo, people got so pissed when I said Fazlul Haq. Damn me. Anyways, Fazl Haq Faruqi, Abdul Rahman, Naveenul Haq. That's the squad for the Afghanistan team.
I think they're really heavily reliant on their spin bowling, as they have been for the past.
Which is, again, some of the best in the world. So why
one of
not?
the best. And in these conditions, they'll be even more dangerous. Also because their players, I think, like their spinners at least, have played in the IPL. So again, they come in with experience playing in India. And I just think with Rashid, Mujib, Nabi, and then also Noor Ahmed on the bench. Like Noor Ahmed is a serious talent. He's a left arm leg spinner, unorthodox. Nobody's really seen him that much. He played for Karachi Kings in one season. But he is like, this bowling attack for Afghanistan is so good that he cannot make it into the team. He's on the bench. So, but I think that's a double-edged sword because they're super reliant on their spin to turn up. Their fast bowling isn't as good, especially in the death overs. I think Fazl Haq Faruqi is a very good new ball bowler, but in the death overs, he hasn't performed as well. They have added Naveen Haq in the 15-man squad. He was not in the Asia Cup squad. They've put Gulbuddin Naib in the reserves and brought in Naveen Haq. Some people say he is a poor man's Bumrah because of its action and how he copies Bumrah. Very similar if you sort of have a side-by-side frame of both of them bowling.
No disrespect to Afghanistan, by the way. I mean,
or Naveen Haq.
Yeah. Between the three teams that we just discussed, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan, I think this is this side to look out for. If you're looking for teams that can quote-unquote upset or have the most wins between these three teams, I would say that Afghanistan is the team to watch out for. These three teams, in my opinion, are evenly matched, but Afghanistan just has that flair that the Afghans have actually had for a while in their cricket team. And I feel like if on their day, if they just set up their temperaments just a little bit more patiently, they can topple over a side like in Australia or even in Pakistan. They almost did it a few times recently in the past. So they're just looking for that one way in, and if they can find it, it's going to be hard for anyone to stop them.
Yeah, I wouldn't take the Afghanistan team lightly at all. And if I could watch out for a couple of players, I would say it would be Rahmanullah Gurbaz up top because he's a very good player technically whenever he's hitting down the ground. And also, obviously, maybe the greatest leg spinner in the world right now, especially in T20s, Rashid Khan. He has actually yet to perform really well against the top 8 teams. His stats against them versus the other associate teams, there's like it's day and night. That's how big the difference is. So hoping to see what they can do. And then now, lastly, Netherlands.
So the
Dutch brothers.
The Dutch brothers, Netherlands. This is going to be a tough one because I honestly do not know a lot about this team. Maybe I've met a few of them in the GT20. They came over. But apart from that, it's going to be a tough one. You're going to have to lead this one. So we got the Netherlands here. And the squad goes as follows. We got Scott Edwards as captain. Max O'Dowd as vice captain. We got Bas de Lead. We got Vikram Singh. We got Teja Nidamanaru. We got Paul van Meekeren. We got Colin Ackerman. We got Rolf van der Merwe. We got Logan van Beek. We got Aryan Dutt. We got Ryan Klein, Wesley Barisi, Saqib Zulfikar, Shariz Ahmed, and Sybrand Engelbrecht.
Fun fact, Shariz Ahmed follows us on Instagram. So Shariz, maybe whenever we're in Netherlands or if you're ever in Toronto, Let's look
Bro,
up.
shout out to Sades, man. Thank you for following. Also, shout out to Rehan Ahmed from England. He also likes a lot of our stuff, and we respect that. We really do.
So I think it'll be very tough for Netherlands to qualify, but it is a huge achievement for them to qualify to this World Cup ahead of a experienced and a solid team like Zimbabwe and Scotland. So I think for them to be here, like, there's that meme where it's like, I'm just happy to be here, that's going to be Netherlands. But at the same time, I would not rule them out. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, they had one of the most impactful wins in the last T20 World Cup. Them winning against South Africa opened the doors for Pakistan to qualify for the semis. So again, a team like Afghanistan, a team like Bangladesh, Netherlands may not qualify for the top four, but they may be able to stop the way for other teams who may be looking comfortable in qualifying.
Yep, and that wraps up the World Cup breakdowns of every single team. Went kind of long, but I feel like that was needed. We kind of dissected as much as we could on every team, and I think it's much needed, especially for our fans, because we do sort of lean heavily towards the Pakistan cricket side, but it's really important to understand what the competition is like and who we're looking up ahead against in the World Cup. In this moment, I would quickly like to mention the Patreon, all of these lists that we have, all of these topics, all of the ideas that you sort of Bashar has sort of encapsulated. It's all going to be on the forum, and we're going to be uploading it on Patreon. So if that's something you guys are interested in, you want to check it out for yourself, you're going to want to leave comments, critique us. That's the best place to do it. We reply to every single comment there. YouTube gets a little bit overwhelming, but the Patreon, that's where it's at. So let's do predictions. Top four, Bashar, what do you got?
My top four for the ODI World Cup is going to be India, England, Australia, and then the fourth spot is going to be a tie between whoever finishes on top between New Zealand and Pakistan. Given my Pakistani background, I will edge Pakistan ahead of New Zealand. That's my top four. My finalists will be India versus England. My winners is England to win again. And the reason why I say that is just because of India's track record in ICC knockout tournaments the last 10 years. They've found a new way to lose in these knockout matches. They've choked, I would say. They're chokers of ICC knockout matches in the last 10 years. So even though it is at home, it is in their home conditions, I would still count on England to win the World Cup. How about you? World Cup predictions, hit me.
Firstly, that's a crazy thing that you put Pakistan. That's the most diplomatic answer ever. Pakistan or New Zealand, whoever plays better. Come on, be a man and say Pakistan. But okay, my top four is going to be India, Pakistan, England, and so now this is where I am a little bit like, do I go for Australia? Do I go for New Zealand? Do I pick a wild card like South Africa? I don't know, but I will go for Australia. I think Australia has the most pedigree when it comes to ICC events. They have the most experience at knockouts. I don't think New Zealand are going to make it with Kane Williamson and Saudi injured as they are. Like I said, this is anyone's tournament. The top 6 teams are viable, and including South Africa and New Zealand in this, they are viable they could make the top 4, and I wouldn't be surprised, because on their day, on their tournament, if they have a good week and a half, they can trample 4 teams and just make it to the top 4. So I think that's my top 4. My finalist is going to be Pakistan and England, and I think it's going to be Pakistan to win.
Wow.
I think we're waiting for the podcast next week, but I do think Pakistan has a flair to them that I think the last time I saw it was in 2011 when Afridi was the captain, and Afridi had a far less talented team in his squad of 11. He had like a new Wahab Riaz. He didn't have a Junaid Khan. Like, apart from a couple of injuries right now, we have a pretty solid 11, pretty solid 15, I would say, or 18, whatever you want to say. Like, this is a very good Pakistan cricket team. We've said it a lot of times, and I'm banging on them to win it because of Babar's attitude in the press conference today. He just seemed like anything less than the World Cup itself is a loss to him, and that attitude is the type of attitude that brings hope the cup.
I love this confidence that you have in this Pakistan team, and I say amen to whatever you mentioned. I hope it happens.
So wait, we're not done yet. You had a few more stats that we wanted to discuss real quick. Who do you think will score the most runs?
So it's hard to pinpoint one exact player, but I do have my money on either Rohit Sharma, David Warner, or Babar Azam to be the highest run scorers.
Gautam Gambhir says that he will quote unquote aag laga dega. He'll bring fire.
He'll set the World Cup on fire.
Yeah,
and I totally agree. I think conditions in the India will be very similar to what we see in Pakistan. And like I mentioned, with the small boundaries, quick outfields, flat pitches, I have no doubts that Babar Azam will bring his A game to this stage. And I think looking up, this might be the stage that Babar Azam is looking for in order to shut down the haters, to sort of break down the plastic fans that are out there who are literally looking out for Babar Azam to fail,
Waiting for
so
his
they can
demise.
have their agendas pop up.
Yeah, waiting for his demise, the Shoaib Jats of the world. Definitely. Like, I think so. And if I were to predict how many centuries he's going to make, I would say at least 2 to 3. 2 to 3 centuries loading in for Babar Azam in this World Cup. I need to see it.
Is he your top run scorer?
Him and Kohli, yeah.
Him and Kohli, okay.
Him and Kohli. Either or. I think it's him. Or I don't think Steve Smith is going to do as well. Maybe Warner, actually. Warner is a good call. He does open for Australia, but he just looks a little bit out of touch. Depends if he's going to bat right-handed or left-handed. Which Warner is going to make the most runs. I don't know. But yeah, I would say Babar Azam. I would say that. And what about most wickets?
So just given the track record of how Mitchell Starc turns up in big ICC events and how dangerous he can be with the new ball in the middle overs and the death when it's reversing, I would say Mitchell Starc might be the highest wicket taker. Mohammad Siraj also might be up there in the highest wickets. Looking back at the 2011 World Cup, it was Zahir Khan followed by Shahid Afridi.
Not followed, they were tied.
They were tied.
No, mind your language there.
I think Zahir Khan had the better economy or average. He was on top for some reason.
He just played one more game though.
Okay.
So if Afridi had played the final, we don't know. Also, he didn't take any wickets in the semifinal.
Right.
Also, his catch was dropped 3 times. So, I mean, we can go on and on.
Yeah. So I just think there could be a spinner up there. It could be Kuldeep Yadav. It could be Darbesh Shamsi, the out of the blue pick for me. Who do you think is going to be the highest wicket taker?
I think Starc is going to be the highest wicket taker, just because, like you said, but it's difficult, man. Starc, the last 2 World Cups he played were in Australia and England, where they are bowling friendly tracks, so it's easier for him to, take wickets there. 2011, one of the highest wicket takers was a spinner, Shahid Afridi. So I would still say that the spinner is going to take more wickets. I want to say Kuldeep Yadav. If he plays all 9 games in the group stages, you'll see a lot. He played 2 games in the Asia Cup and took 9 wickets. Third game he didn't even bowl. I think that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, come on, he's taking 5 and 4 already in South Asian conditions. I would be remiss to say Kuldeep Yadav is not a contender for highest wickets.
My MVP of the tournament is going to be Hardik Pandya or Ben Stokes, leaning more towards Hardik Pandya just because of the opportunities he has to make an impact with the bat and the ball. And I think this is a prime Hardik Pandya. He's experienced. He has seen things in life. He's been through scenarios, and he has finished matches for India. He has turned up in big matches. And I think this is the stage that he's been looking for, been waiting for to contribute to India in the best of his powers. And Ben Stokes is just that player that will turn up in the biggest of the biggest matches. 2019 World Cup final, Headingley Test match, 2022 T20 World Cup final. So I wouldn't rule out Ben Stokes to be the most clutch, impactful player in the tournament. Who's your MVP?
If Pakistan make it to the finals, there's no doubt that Shaheen Afridi took more than 15 wickets in that World Cup. So I want to say Shaheen Afridi, but that's an asterisk if Pakistan make it to the final. I'm going to choose a safe answer. I'm going to go Ben Stokes. Yeah. No problem. If he makes it again, if England make it to the final, Ben Stokes probably has a big hand to that. And Ben Stokes, Virat Kohli, the usual suspects, I would say, they would probably make the MVP for me. And you know what's surprising? We're inching towards an hour and 20 minutes of this podcast. The biggest podcast we've ever done, guys. And so before we wrap that up, there's one last stat that I wanted to share. These are the players who might be playing their last World Cup, and I'll give you their ages with their countries. From India, we got Rohit Sharma at the age of 36, Virat Kohli at the age of 35, approximately, because he's going to turn 35 in November. Jadeja is 34, and Shami is 33, And, fast bowlers have a limited age span. You hardly see a 37-year-old fast bowler. So Shami might be the last one for them. Australia's got David Warner at 36, which is shocking to me because, he still seems like he's so young. But yeah, Warner at 36, Steve Smith at 34, Maxwell at 34, and Starc at 33. So, could be a last World Cup for them as well. Like I said, fast bowlers don't play more than 35, 36. 37 is like a rarity for fast bowlers. In the Bangladesh camp, we got Shakib Ul Hassan at 36, Mushfiq at 36, and Mahmudullah at 37. I think Shakib and Mushfiq retiring will be an end of a huge era.
They're veterans of Bangladesh cricket.
They have literally been the backbone of Bangladesh cricket for a very long time, and them leaving will be, we cannot replace them. We cannot replace them.
And then England also has a few players that
England
are sort of getting really old. Moeen Ali, 36. Ben Stokes came out of retirement, so he's still 33, but he is just going to play his last ODI World Cup / ODI matches in the coming days. So it'll be the last of him. And then Adil Rashid is 35. And then New Zealand, Bolt is already mentioned that he wants to prioritize T20 leagues. He has not been given a New Zealand contract, so also he's pushing 34. His bowling partner, the legendary Bolt and Saudi duo, Saudi is also turning 34, so might be his last World Cup as well. And then De Kock has also announced, like I mentioned before, that he is retiring from this format and focusing more on T20 league. So this ODI World Cup, or any ODI World Cup, is sort of a wake-up call, a reminder that a lot of our favorite players might be leaving the game, might be playing their last matches, and it reminds you that it is an end of an era. Sometimes makes you emotional because, we've seen players like Rohit Sharma for the past 15, 16 years. So it'll be really weird to not see him in the Indian kit for a long time. Same thing with David Warner, Mitchell Starc,
Kohli, bro.
Virat Kohli. It is debatable whether Virat Kohli might keep pushing to the next World Cup. My take, just personal, what I think of Virat Kohli, what I haven't seen him in the past few years, is that Virat Kohli might not play for that long, just because I heard him say in one of his interviews that he will stop playing once he stops enjoying the game. So it's not about making money for him. That's not about putting up the records, but it's more about enjoying the game. And I'm not sure how much longer he can sustain with his fitness, with his very strict diet plan and fitness regime.
He's a dad now too, so it's tough. It's tough out there. Yeah, I mean, that's a great place to wrap it up. On that extremely positive note that we might never be seeing these players again. I feel like we did a good job wrapping it up. You think we left anything out?
We might have. I mean, we can always come back and discuss other points in future episodes because you'll be seeing a lot of the World Cup coverage on this podcast, Backward Point. So make sure you tune in, you subscribe, and we absolutely love engaging with you guys respectfully in the comment section. So if you guys get a chance, mention your top 4 teams.
Yeah.
Mention your finalists, your winners, your top run scorers, your top wicket takers, and we might go through the list at the end of the tournament. And if anybody sort of finishes up at top, we'll give you a shout out in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, you always get brownie points with us on this podcast for making right predictions because we suck at them.
And if we've missed any points, make sure to mention it in the comments. We love to expand our knowledge. We're not cricket experts by any means. We're just two brothers who love cricket and love to analyze and give sort of our takes on the game. So thank you for tuning in to Backward Point Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you can be informed of future episodes.
Don't forget to leave a review if you're listening to us on Spotify, because a lot of people do that and they forget to leave a review. It actually helps push the podcast and push it in front of more people. And don't forget to check out the Patreon and all that stuff. Thank you for listening to this. If you're still listening to this, you leave us fish emoji in the comments because I'd love to see people who finish this podcast. An hour and 20 minutes. You guys are champs. This is Nadir Sayed signing out.
This is Bashar signing out.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers.